Hello and welcome to Engineering Principles with Mr. Watts. Today we're going to be going through a tutorial talking about making a trebuchet arm out of 3 layers of laser scribed material. In this drawing that you see on the screen right now, I have 3 components. I'll just hide them one at a time. I've got this center section that can be laser scribed. All of the features are just a single outline. And then on the side of that, I've got another section. In this case, it's a little bit smaller. Some of the features don't go through. And then the third one is actually a repeat of the second one. So I've got a center section and 2 side sections. So we're going to go through how to do that from scratch. Before I jump into that, look at the requirements for this particular project. We need to fit in dimensions of 10 by 1.5 by 0.75. That's 3 layers of hardboard cut from a laser scriber in this case. There is a bearing. It was a 375 inch on the side hex coupling nut, which is used threaded onto a 1/4 inch bolt and a little bit of grease, and that makes a wonderful bearing. We need in our design provisions for hanging the weight, attaching a sling, and a release pin. And so we need to make sure all of those features appear on our design. That's all the canvas we're going to be doing. The rest of it is in Fusion 360, which hopefully you have installed and have learned how to do basic features. So in this one, we're going to go clear from the beginning. We're going to create a new design. First thing I like to do with my designs is save them, give them a name. This is a trebuchet tutorial, and in this case we are doing a laser cut design, so I'll do that much on the title. Our design actually had 3 separate components, so we're going to let the design just be apparent. It has nothing physical in it. I'm going to right click with this selected and create a new component, and I will rename that. I think the easiest way to do that is just to slowly double click that, and so we'll make this the center section, and I'm going to come back up to here, right click one more time, create a second component that's a part of the major design, and we're going to call this one side. So we've got a design. It's got 2 subcomponents, center and side. We're going to start with the center, and to work on it, when you have multiple components, you have to activate the component you're working on. So with that activated, we'll create a sketch. We'll put that sketch on the XY plane, and we're going to work from the center out, from the pivot point out. And the reason we do that is it makes the math a lot easier when we're getting numbers to send back to our model. So go to the Create menu. I'm going to start with the polygon right in the middle. We're going to use a circumscribed polygon. That means the dimension of your circle will be the flat dimension. Click here. I'm going to pull straight down so that it stays horizontal on the bottom. And I'm going to click. The actual size of this is 0.375. I'm going to use the dimensioning tool to dimension from the bottom to the top flat. And right now it's sitting in a little over 1.5 inches. The actual part is 0.275. I'm going to make it slightly smaller than that, because the laser scriber actually removes about 5/1000ths of materials, and we want that to be a nice snug fit. So 0.273 is the size I am making. By the way, if you're 3D printing that, you would be going a slightly bigger because the material oozes out. Notice it's not the dark black line yet. That's because we're not fully constrained. If I select the horizontal vertical constrain tool and click on that surface right there, then that hexagon has been fully defined. I know its center, I know its size, and I know its orientation. So there we go, that's done. Zoom out a little bit here. I'm using my touchpad to zoom out. You can use these menu items down here as well. Now I need to put some shape around that. I'm going to just do a simple square. If I hit create rectangle, my palette over here gives me the option to do a center rectangle. So if I click on the center and then come off to the side, you can see it's creating a rectangle in both dimensions. For simplicity, I'm going to type 1 inch, hit the tab key, type 1 inch, hit return, and I have my fully dimensioned rectangle. The rest of the design I'm going to build from this. I'm going to need a couple of construction lines for the rest. Going to zoom way out. My entire part is 10 inches long. I want in this design a 2-inch short arm and a 4-inch or an 8-inch long arm. And so that's a total of 10 inches. I'm actually going to do some construction lines. And I'm going to put a line just along the axis here. So I click in the center and draw out this way for a ways. Did that do it? No, I forgot my line tool. There we go. So I'll start on this axis and just do a big horizontal line, much longer than my part is going to be. And then I'm going to do 2 vertical lines. Hit the line tool. I'm going to put one at about 2 inches and the other one, hit escape to finish that one. Another vertical line down here somewhere, and we'll just dimension, put those exactly where we want. Dimension tool, click from this line to the middle, and that one's showing at 7.5. We'll make it 8 exactly, and we'll dimension from this line to the middle and make that 2 exactly. Now I have, I'm going to zoom extent here and hide my sketch palette, or move my sketch palette. There we go. We can see the whole part. It's going to fit within that area. All right, so now we've got that dimensioned. We can start filling in this space here. Let's just make a very simple trapezoid. So 3 lines. So if I create a just take the line tool, go from here, come out over here somewhere a little bit below the horizon, over here and over here. That created all but the end line. Let me make that end line. Okay. And it's thinking about it, and there we go. We've got these three lines. These aren't fully dimensioned. It'd be nice to give them some angle, or so let's measure this point relative to that point in the vertical direction. So I'm going to come in with the dimension tool, come from here to, oops, I clicked wrong, to that point, and to the origin. No, it really doesn't want to dimension that for me. There we go, 2 inches. So I don't want to measure 2 inches that direction. I want to measure the height. So I get down here between them and click that. Let's make that a 1/4 inch. And then do the same thing here. Measure from that point to the origin and come in here. Sometimes it fights you on doing that. If you right click, you can actually force that to be a vertical dimension. And it's at 0.375. Let's say change that to 0.25. There we go. Now we've got this fun little trapezoid shape, and it's fully dimensioned. At this end, we need some sort of hole, so I'm going to zoom in. That was a little too much. Pan across. And maybe somewhere in here we need a circle, so I'll come in, click on that line. I found that about 1/8 of an inch is good, so I'm going to make this hole 0.125 for threading things like wires through. That's just sitting on that point. Don't know how far it is from here or here. Let's measure from here. Put it maybe 1/2 inch in. So the dimension tool, measure the center of the circle out to the back of the part. Cancel the center of the circle to the back of the part. And there we go. It's sitting at 0.187. Let's put that in maybe 1/4 of an inch, so that we're still here where it's pretty beefy. Okay, we'll call that done for that end. Let's zoom the extent here, zoom to fit so we can see this end, and then zoom in over here. Now we need to be able to see the... For this side, I think I'm going to make it a little bit simpler. We're just going to go with a pure rectangle, just a 2-point rectangle. Come to this top left, top right corner, and then come down here. I want to be exactly that height, and then we'll come over till we hit that line. And there's a nice simple rectangle that is the correct dimensions, 8 inches. This line here didn't register on that point, so I'm going to hit the dimension tool, measure from here to here, and let's confirm that that's 1 inch, and that's fully dimensioned. Now we need 2 more features. We need a hole on at this end somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and drag this point out off my part. And I need a hole down at here, and then I need some way to attach the release pin. First, let's do the hole. So I'll come in here, maybe about a 1/2 inch from the end, draw that same 125 hole. Let's dimension it 1/2 inch in, maybe. That didn't work. 0.5, enter, there we go. And then I'm going to zoom in here. I need a little bit more. I need to put a feature where I can put a pin out here along this line. And I think the easiest way to do that is to just cut a slot in here that's the right height. And it will be thicker than I need it, but I think it'll work if we stick some glue in there. So to do that, I'm going to create another circle. This one, my pin's about 80 thousandths, so 0.08 inches. And we'll dimension this one from the end. Maybe, I'd like to go pretty close to that other hole, so let's go 0.4 in. So maybe not quite that far. 0.375. There we go. So those won't quite intersect. So we'll come in there. And now zoom in very closely so I can see what I'm doing. I want to draw a line from the top of that over to here. So the height will be 0.08. Maybe if I just, well, let's just try it here. Let's draw a line from here over to there. And there's 2 ways I can connect. I can connect on it, which gives me the X, or I can connect tangent to it, which gives me that dimension. And then I can move this line until it's horizontal. I think if I just take that line and constrain it horizontal, there we go, that line is in position. And I can do the same thing down here now. Come from here anywhere. Catch the tangent, and then go horizontal with this line. And now I've got that nice little slot. This piece of the rectangle's in the way. I'm going to use my trim tool to just cut that out. I had to cut it in 2 pieces because of that construction line. But now it's kind of hard to see. Oh, I need to trim that half of the circle out as well. So now I've got the outline of the part creating this little channel, which will be good for my release pin to fit in. It's not fully dimensioned. I don't really care at this point. We're going to go ahead and create this part. It will create. You should take the time to fully dimension everything. But we're going to finish the sketch. Going to angle it just a little bit so we can see what's going on as we do the next operation. We're going to create an extrusion. We need to select a profile. We need this part, and you see it didn't catch that hole. We need that square. It didn't catch the hole. We need this blade. You can see it's got the cut in it and the hole there. That's what we need to move. This time we want this symmetric around the XY plane, so we're going to use the symmetric extrusion and go use a distance, but we're going to go the we're type in the whole distance, the whole thickness of our part, which is 0.25 because that's the material we're using. And you can see it created part on both sides of the axis. And that's exactly what we wanted to do, create the new body. We now have our first part. Okay, the next part we're going to do, we need to activate the sides. And we're going to build this side off of this part so that it mates to it and everything's aligned. So I just click on the surface of that part, creating a new sketch. And there's our sketch. Notice it copied everything. Well, we want this part to be a little bit different. For example, I'm going to put a circle in here. So let's create a circle tangent on two lines, 1, 2, and then I'm just going to move that circle up until it is no longer intersecting that hole where my weight may be. And then, and that will be the new end of my part. So I'm going to have to take these 2 lines and trim them away, modify trim. By the way, all of these lines came in, but they don't really work. So we're going to have to recreate those. I can't trim them yet. So let's go ahead and, well, we can trim this side away. Good. We've got that tangent circle. And now we can just start drawing the rest of the parts using the line tool. So I can come to this point, snap on that point, snap on this point. Oh, it didn't draw that line. Let's come back. And now we come to this point. We're going to draw all the way through so that we create sidewalls for that hole. Click on this point again, come down to here, click on this point again, come down to there. We now have a whole outline of the shape. We need to put some features in. We need to have that same hex hole and this same through hole. So let's zoom in quickly. I can create the hex hole by tracing it, or more easily just draw another polygon. Circumscribed, I click on the center and I click on the side. That one's done. I come over here, create my hole. Click on the center, click on the side. That one's done, and finish the sketch. Pretty quick when many of your features are referenced off the other. And so that part is ready for extrusion. Again, I'm going to swing it out here so we can see. May barely be able to see the outline of that part, of the original part. Now we're going to extrude this piece off towards me. So that will be an extrusion. I select this face and I'm going to do one-sided, a distance of 0.25, and hit OK. That is done. And I want mine to be symmetric, so I'm going to make a second copy of that and put it over on this side. We don't want the copy to be within the part. We want the copy to be on this. So we actually activate the top level, then come down to this, right-click, and move or copy this part. And so now we can type in a Z distance. If I type 0.5, it moves it away from the part. I actually really want to make it on the other side of the part, so I'm going to go minus 0.5. Come on. Minus 0.5. But I want to leave the original so that I have both of them. So I create a copy, minus 0.5 in the Z direction, and click OK. And now you can see we have a center, a front side, a back side. These two are identical. We can hide them one at a time if we choose. But that's our part, and we're ready to go. Two things left to do. One, we can figure out all of the physical properties of this part. And we do that by coming up to the parent that contains all of it and down to properties. Gives me a list of things. The volume of this is 7 inches cubed. That's pretty big. We may want to trim that down. Maybe we could pocket these outsides or something. We're not going to take the time here. But also, we can find the center of mass. right here, the center of mass is 3.2 inches in the X direction. That would be from here, 3.2 inches down. Because everything else is symmetric, it's along that the center of mass in Y and Z, or Z and Y is 0. We can also look and read the moment of inertia. The one we're interested in is the IZZ. That would be around the Z-axis, and that is 235 inches cubed or something like that. We'll have to convert that to pounds once we go back to the Trebuchet simulator. So I like to copy these values to the clipboard and then paste them into the spreadsheet. We'll save that for another time. Okay, last thing we need to do is create some output. And for output, we need to have drawings of the different sides. We only have 2 really different sides. Let's click on the center one, activate it, right click, and we're going to create a drawing. And we'll just do a nice 11 by 8. That should fit our part on it just fine. And hit OK. And it takes a while for it to figure out what it needs when it creates this new drawing. The menu has changed up here. Now we're going to place our part. It came in with a scale of 1 to 4. We actually need this to be a scale of 1 to 1. And then we can put this over there, and you can see that it fits. That's great. We've got our 10-inch arm here. And we hit OK. So we've got that in there. We don't need all of this other stuff, so we can delete those 2 things. And this drawing is done. We can hit save. That little asterisk goes away. We need to give it a name. LaserCut drawing. This is the, I'm going to back this up, rename it. This is just the center. We only need 1 of these. So there's the centerpiece. We're going to output now a DXF file. It's a drawing interchange format file, one that AutoCAD created a long time ago, and my 3D printing software knows how to read this. So this is the Trebuchet Tutorial Center, version 1, seat 1. I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to put it to my downloads folder just because I don't need to save that drawing, but I do need to submit it to Canvas. We would then come down and do exactly the same thing for the side, for one side. Activate it, right click, new drawing, or create a drawing. I will not go through that in interest of time. It's the same process. That needs to be submitted as well. If you label that side, then I will create 2 of the sides and 1 in the center. Hopefully it'll be obvious to me when I get them. If you give me just 1, you'll get 3 identical copies. If you give me 2 drawings, I'll make 2 of whatever I can figure out as the side. If you give 3 drawings, you'll get 1 of each of those. So there's the end of the tutorial. Hope you understood it, and I look forward to seeing with what you come up with. See you next time.